In a small, forgotten village surrounded by dry fields and broken roads, there lived a boy named Ayaan. Life had never been kind to him. His house was old and crumbling, the walls cracked, and the roof barely strong enough to survive the rain. Ayaan didn't have money, opportunities, or anyone to guide him. But deep inside, he carried a dream, a quiet belief that one day, his life would change. Every morning, he stepped outside and heard the same voices. People laughed at him, whispering, "He dreams too big for someone like him." Those words hurt, but he never responded. He just stayed silent and kept going. At home, things were even harder. His father was sick and unable to work. The responsibility of the entire family slowly fell onto Ayaan's young shoulders. During the day, he worked small jobs just to earn enough for food. And at night, when everything became quiet, his thoughts grew louder. One evening, after a long and exhausting day, Ayaan walked into his dimly lit room. A small cracked mirror hung on the wall. He stood in front of it and stared at his reflection. His eyes looked tired, almost defeated. For a moment, he felt like giving up. But then, something inside him refused to break. He took a deep breath and whispered softly, "If I give up now, my story ends here." That night, nothing around him changed. But inside him, everything did. With nothing but hope in his heart, Ayaan left his village and stepped into the crowded, fast-moving city. He believed this was where his life would finally change. Tall buildings, busy streets, and endless opportunities. Or at least, that's what he thought. The first day, he walked into an office and asked for a job. "No experience," they said. The second place didn't even let him finish his sentence. The third one laughed. But Ayaan didn't stop. He went from street to street, door to door, asking, hoping, trying. 10 rejections. Then 15. Then 20. Each no felt heavier than the last. As the sun set, the city lights turned on, but inside Ayaan, everything felt dark. His pockets were empty, his feet were tired, and his stomach ached with hunger. That night, he sat alone on a cold sidewalk. Cars passed by, people rushed home, but no one noticed him. For the first time, doubt entered his heart. Maybe they're right. He thought, maybe I'm not good enough. His eyes filled with tears, but he quickly wiped them away. He looked up at the sky between the tall buildings and took a deep breath. And then, that same quiet voice inside him spoke again. "This is not the end. This is the beginning." Ayaan closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, something had changed. The pain was still there. The struggle was still real. But now, so was his decision. He would not quit, no matter what. The next morning, Ayaan woke up on that same cold sidewalk. But something inside him felt different. The pain was still there. The struggle hadn't disappeared. But his mindset had changed. Instead of running away from the city, he decided to face it. That day, Ayaan stopped looking for easy jobs. He started doing whatever he could find. He carried heavy boxes in markets, cleaned small shops, served tea in roadside stalls. The work was hard. The pay was low. But Ayaan wasn't thinking about money anymore. He was watching, learning, understanding. One afternoon, while serving tea at a small cafe, he noticed something unusual. A man sitting in the corner, quietly working on a laptop. No heavy lifting. No stress. Yet, he earned more in 1 hour than Ayaan did in an entire day. Ayaan couldn't stop looking. That moment changed everything. For the first time, he realized, a real power is not in muscles. It's in the mind. That night, instead of sleeping early, Ayaan borrowed an old phone from a coworker. He sat in a corner, scrolling, searching, learning. He didn't understand everything, but he didn't stop. Hours passed. His eyes were tired, but his mind was awake like never before. That night, Ayaan made a promise to himself. I will learn, no matter how long it takes. And just like that, his real journey finally began. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Ayaan's life followed a routine that no one noticed. During the day, he worked harder than ever, lifting, cleaning, running errands, doing anything to survive. But the nights, The nights belonged to his future. Every night, after a long and exhausting day, Ayaan would sit in a small, dim corner with an old phone in his hands. While the world slept, he stayed awake, watching, learning, practicing. He didn't have a teacher. He didn't have a proper setup. But he had something far more powerful: consistency. There were nights when his eyes burned with exhaustion, when his body begged him to rest. But he kept going, because he knew something others didn't. Success is built in silence. People still laughed at him. They saw the same poor boy, doing small jobs. They didn't see the late nights. They didn't see the effort. They didn't see the change happening inside him. One night, after months of learning and trying, Ayaan got a small opportunity online. It wasn't big. It didn't pay much. But to him, it meant everything. His hands trembled as he completed the task. And when he finally received his first earning, he just stared at the screen in disbelief. A small smile appeared on his face. This is real. He whispered. That moment wasn't success yet, but it was proof that he was no longer the same person. Time passed, but this time, things were different. Ayaan was no longer just surviving. He was moving forward. What started as a small online task slowly turned into regular work. He kept learning, improving, and pushing himself every single day. Mistakes happened. Sometimes he failed again. But this time, he didn't break. Because now, he knew the way forward. Days turned into better opportunities. Small earnings turned into stable income. For the first time in his life, Ayaan wasn't worried about tomorrow. He moved into a better room, bought simple but clean clothes, and most importantly, he sent money back home. His father finally got proper treatment. His home slowly began to change. The same people who once laughed at him now looked at him with surprise. Some even asked, how did you do it? Ayaan would just smile. He didn't explain the sleepless nights, the pain, the rejection. He simply said, I didn't stop. One evening, Ayaan stood in the same city where he once felt lost. But now, everything looked different. The streets were the same. The buildings were the same. But he wasn't. He looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. I'm getting closer. This wasn't the end of his journey, but it was proof that hard work, patience, and consistency always rise. Years passed. Ayaan was no longer the boy people used to laugh at. He had built a life that once felt impossible. Success didn't come overnight. It came through pain, patience, and persistence. One day, Ayaan stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people. Bright lights were shining on him. The audience waited silently. Some of them were just like he once was, lost, tired, and full of doubt. He took a deep breath and began to speak. I was not the smartest person in the room. The crowd listened carefully. I was not the most talented, and I was definitely not the luckiest. A small pause, complete silence. Then he said, I was just the one who refused to quit. The words hit differently. He looked into the crowd, as if he could see his past self standing there. There were nights I wanted to give up, days I felt like nothing would ever change. His voice softened. But I kept going, even when it was hard, even when it didn't make sense. The room was completely silent now. Then he gave his final message. If you feel like giving up, remember this. Your story is not over yet. For a moment, no one moved. Then suddenly, applause filled the entire room. But Ayaan just smiled quietly, because deep inside, he knew one thing. The real victory was never success. It was not giving up.